Infidelity shatters trust and can leave you feeling unhappy, unlovable, and unworthy. In this episode, my guest Heidi bravely shares her story about rebuilding her life and self-worth following a divorce and finding new love. We discuss the challenges in letting go of old relationship patterns and traumas in order to fully embrace a new healthy relationship. This episode includes discussions about mental health issues and suicidal ideation. Listener discretion is advised. I'm your host, Dashankar, and you're listening to That Was the Moment I Decided That I Deserved Love and Happiness. My guest today is Heidy De La Cruz. Heidi is a writer, podcaster, and podcast coach. She hosts the top 10 globally ranked podcast, The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants, where immigrants share their journey of coming to the United States. She writes a weekly personal development newsletter called Into My Thoughts and holds a master's degree in healthcare administration and a bachelor's degree in psychology. Heidi works as a medical coding analyst and is a wife and mother of two. Thanks so much for being here, Heidi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
Yes, me too. Why don't we start with what life was like for you before your moment?
Before my moment, I feel like it was very unstable. And I realized that also with going to therapy and everything. And it was like, so that wasn't normal. Like I wasn't supposed to go through that. Like that wasn't supposed to happen. So I just feel like it was unstable.
Yeah. And I like how you just said that this isn't normal, because when we're growing up and in life, we just accept that, oh, isn't this what everyone experiences?
Yes, exactly.
and it's not. And then it becomes our kind of normal. So take me to your moment.
To my moment. Yes. So I would have to say that my early 20s was like very rough. Again, divorce in my early 20s. I'm like, geez, losing my mom and just dealing with a lot of mental health issues. Just trying to like process everything and then just trying to like get my life together pretty much. And then I had my daughter pretty young too, which is funny because the other day I was telling her, I was like, man, I'm going to be 31. I finally feel like an adult. And she just looked at me like, what do you mean? It's like
I've been raised by a child. What?
Yeah, exactly. She was like, aren't you an adult? And I was like, no, I literally grew up with you, child. This is what I told her. She just looked at me all scared. But yeah, it was just so much was going on. And finally, I decided, I was like, man, I don't want to continue to live my life like this. I don't want to continue to be so bitter. The reason why my first marriage ended was because of infidelity. And so I was just like, love is fake. Everyone's getting cheated on. All those relationships you see on online, they're all fake. Everyone, and it got to the point where I was like, I don't want to live my life like this. I don't want to live with all this negativity and everything. And then just grieving my mom and just processing that loss. Cause like after you lose a loved one, after you lose your parent, it's just your life is completely different. So I really had to like take a step back and like get myself together pretty much. And I just um, really dove into getting a supportive community, which was with the church at the time that was close to where I lived. And I just really was like, okay, I want to get closer to God. And, again, therapy, continue to do therapy and really process everything. Or at least I thought I was processing everything, but like now I'm back to therapy and I found out that I have PTSD. I mean, because, just thinking about everything that I've gone through, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But so I just really wanted to again get my life together and just really like not live in negativity, not be so bitter and so angry all the time because I was angry all the time. But so yeah, that was a moment that I was just like, okay, something's got to give. Like I can't keep living my life like this. And then after I really made that decision to get everything together, to do the therapy, to do the work, my life has just been has been really good thus far. Um, I started praying for my future husband, like, after just really being in church and having that supportive community, like I said, started praying for my future husband because I was like, you know what? Like, just because I had this traumatic experience with one guy doesn't mean that that's going to happen again. So I started to be hopeful and, without even thinking about it or like really looking for him, like God brought him into my life, my now husband, and he really brought him like in that, like during that moment where I was just like, doing that transition and bettering myself and things like that. So then after that, I mean, just us being together, being able to like go through life challenges together, not being in a toxic relationship, helping one another with reaching our goals. And it's crazy because a lot of people ask about like, how do I do all the million things that I do? And I'm like, God and my husband are really like my rock, who like help me get through everything, who help me like do everything, because I would not be able to do even this right now, this interview. I would not even be able to do it if my husband was not with our kids.
That
Mhm.
sounded like a lot to be dealing with in your 20s. So you are a young mum,
Mhm.
you are divorced, you have lost your mum, and on top of all that, you're dealing with betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And were you taking that betrayal personally? So were you seeing
Yes.
as an attack on you?
Yes, and that's the thing with betrayal and infidelity. Like really start to think like, what did I do wrong? Or what am I enough? Or why wasn't I enough? And you start to compare yourselves. Um and in my case, unfortunately, there was multiple women. So it was like, was I not pretty enough? Was I not attentive enough? Was I not? You make this list of things and you do take it very, very personal. And I really literally had to like rebuild myself because it really crushed me. Again, being young and just thinking that everything, but you don't know nothing. And going through this, it was just like I just really felt like I had to rebuild myself again because it really diminished my confidence, my self worth. Like I really felt like I wasn't worthy of love. And again, like I was angry and just mad and just thinking like, love is fake and everything. But yeah, that I took it very personal. And with the work, I realized that it had nothing to do with me. Like there was
Mm,
nothing that I could do to prevent it. There was nothing that I could do to stop it, because when a man decides he's going to cheat, he's going to cheat regardless.
mhm.
They'll find a way. And so I that was a really hard lesson to learn, but it was a really good lesson to learn because, now in my current marriage, my husband knows everything that I went through. He knows all the details and everything. And I've told him, I was like, if I even get the inkling that something's going on, I'm done. Because I'm not doing
Mm,
that again. Not doing
yeah.
that. I would go through his phone, like messages and Facebook stuff, and I was just like, not doing that again. So if I even get the hint that something's off, like I'm out, because your partner is supposed to make you feel secure. There's not supposed to be any questioning. There's not supposed to be any doubts. And I'm not saying he's perfect. I mean, he can, like anybody else, he can commit the mistake. But I just told him, like, if I get any inkling, I'm done. Yeah.
And I think it's also like, what are your non-negotiables in a relationship? And
Yeah.
for me, cheating is definitely one, and I've had this conversation with my boyfriend because I'm like, that for me shows that you have zero respect for me.
Yeah.
And if you have zero respect for me, how do we ever come back from that?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Now, again, like I can't even compare the relationships because they're black and white. Honestly, they're complete opposite. Like with my husband now, there's no doubting, and then he's very transparent, right? So like if I look back previously there was always hiding, there was always lying, there was always like not telling the full truth. Things didn't make sense, and then now it's just like, so transparent. It was like, oh, here's my phone is there. Okay, great. Who texted me? Who called? Like, nothing. My husband doesn't even, he has social media, and I don't even know why he has social media because he doesn't post. But to him, like, none of that matters, like posting or anything like that. And I actually, now that I'm talking about social media, I actually saw a post, and it was this it was called like Silent Love, and it was just a post showing how like your partner shows you love silently. It doesn't have to be loud and extravagant for everyone to see. And one of the lines was like, it's you going to the grocery store and bringing back my favorite snack without, me asking, or without it being on the grocery list. And literally the day before, my husband had did that. Like, he went to the grocery store and he brought me my favorite snack. And so when I saw that post, I was like, this is you. Like, this is my husband. Like, this is you. And so it was like, because I used to want that back when I was younger. I used to want my husband to post me and things like that. But then
Validation,
now,
validation.
yes. And then it was crazy because it was like, why did I want this man to post me when he was cheating on me and it was all going to be, fake and stuff. But then now it's like, I don't care because I know what I have. I know what we have, and what we have is special and real. And I mean, I wish he would let me like record him sometimes because he's hilarious, my husband. But, I have to respect his privacy because, I'm the podcaster and I'm the one putting myself out there. But he's like, I'm going to be the behind the scenes husband. Like, I don't want to be in the spotlight or anything like that. So
That's amazing. What stuff did you do to try and build yourself up again? So
yes.
because that's the important bit, right? Like getting back up again.
Oh my gosh, yes. It took a lot of writing. Honestly, like, I wrote a whole poetry book throughout those really troubling years. Writing was really my therapy. So I wrote poetry, and again, therapy, just really trying to understand what was going on with me, what happened, and how it affected me. Having supportive people around me. So, like, my closest friends at the time, just being able to lean on them and them like reassuring me, like, this is not your fault, and just them letting me cry. Honestly, I remember one day, it was after work, two of my closest friends, they were just like, you know what, let's just go to Heidi's apartment, we're going to cook dinner, and we're just gonna have girl time. And that was literally just what I needed at that time. So they like came over, we cooked dinner, had some wine, and it was just like, I just thanked them so much for that, because it's going through all of that by yourself is hard. But then, just having that supportive community is like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, people do love me, people do care for me. So, and it just took time, honestly, to build myself up again, to build my confidence and realize, like, I am worthy of love. There is someone who's going to love me and be there for me. And and then again, just with my faith, just, really diving into the word of God, listening to a lot of worship music, and just being surrounded by faith-based people and having people pray for me was really, really powerful.
Going back to what you saw, that post you saw about love, so much of that resonated with me. My boyfriend, he doesn't even like photos of himself, and he's like, you can have photos of me, but I don't want them going anywhere.
Yeah.
And my ex was literally like, if you look at his Instagram, it's just like bang, 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 him.
Yeah.
And I don't know where and how we all got this idea that love had to be someone saying, oh, look, this is my person, I love them, or those grand gestures, rather than, hey, I saw a mango and I know that you like mangoes, so here's a mango. And that's something that my boyfriend does for me. Before this relationship, when I was getting the grand gestures, I thought that was love. But that was just someone that didn't know how to love, doing what they've seen in movies.
That part. That's what it is. It's the media. It was, that rise of social media, right? That was going on a few years ago. And then also, yeah, like the movies, we just get these movies and shows, TV shows, just showing us what love is supposed to be, but
Yeah.
it's really not, because I can post a picture of me and my husband like, oh hey, we're great, but then we're arguing, going at each other's throats, and it's like
Yeah.
that's not real, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why like I said it before in my previous relationships, like I wanted him to post me. I wanted that validation. But then it was like, why when it was fake? Like he was being unfaithful. I wasn't the only woman in his life. So it's like, yeah, he could have posted me, but I was gonna look stupid because he wasn't, he wasn't faithful. And now my now husband, he's like, yeah, does not care for social media either. And but I know that he loves me with the little things that he does,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
things that I don't even have to ask him for or tell him. Like he just does it, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like I know this. And I my biggest thing for me is just that sense of security, just because of what I
Mm-hmm.
went through. And
Yeah.
that for me is really big. It's like I have this sense of security with him that I don't have to question, and I don't have to wonder who he's texting, what he's doing, what
That's
if what
exhausting.
it is.
That's
It was
exhausting.
so draining. It was
Yeah.
so emotionally and draining. And that's why I told my husband, I was like, I can't do that again. I
Yeah.
cannot.
Looking at the little things, I think that also shows the character of a man, showing your partner love, but not having to be so outlandish about it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to do something crazy,
Yeah.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel any less loved if you don't do it.
Yeah.
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 And
It's the little things.
that going back to what you said about feeling secure, like feeling safe and secure is the most basic of needs humans have. That's your foundation. That's the base. So if you have that rocky base, you're never going to
Mhm.
feel stable. You're never going to be able to grow happily.
Yeah, I was listening to a another podcast a few weeks ago, and they were actually talking about like dating and then eventually getting into marriage. And it was a husband and a wife, and the husband was like, if your relationship is hard, that's not the partner for you. And I was just thinking,
Mm.
because he was saying, like, we know marriage is hard, but
Yeah.
that's because, life is hard and there's challenges and you go through things together. But you and your partner shouldn't make each other's lives hard. He was saying, like, in the relationship phase, like, things should just be like easy and flow and, have fun together and things like that. So if your relationship is like really hard and there's always something, then that's not the partner for you. And it just got me thinking about like when me and my husband were dating, how just everything kind of just fell into place. Everything felt easy. Nothing ever felt forced. And that's how I knew it was like, okay, this is legit. Like this is it.
Yeah.
And so he had mentioned the same thing too, because he had previously been in another relationship where everything did feel forced. And he was like, I couldn't even have a simple conversation with this woman because it felt like he was like, we're kind of reaching as to like what even to talk about. And so that's how I knew it was like, okay, no, this isn't going anywhere. But then with me, it was like different. So if anyone's out there in a relationship and it's just hard, like, hard, but not like life challenges hard, it's just like you guys are making each other's life hard. No, let it go.
Yeah, that's really important. And also to have like a partner that fills you up, not brings you down.
Yes.
You talked about PTSD because I think this is a really important thing. PTSD, I think when people hear those words, they think of victims of war or like soldiers or things like that. But we all can suffer PTSD for many reasons. And because of my past relationships, there are some things that I'm very triggered on. I didn't have infidelity, but I had other issues in past relationships. And now, so for one example, if with one of my exes, if I didn't speak to him, if he didn't answer my phone, it meant something was really wrong. Something had gone really wrong. He was in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And I would just go into this like panic of, oh my God, I've got to speak to him, and I would start like kind of hyperventilating and like, oh my God, I need to speak to him. And then I would be obsessed, like ringing like 1,000 times. And a few weeks ago, when I wasn't able to get in touch with my boyfriend, I went straight into that.
Oh yeah.
I went straight into that, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was messaging all my friends and like, oh, he hasn't answered his phone and it's so unlike him because da, 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 da. And all these crazy scenarios were going through my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spoke to him. And of course, the second he was able to call me, he did call me because that's what he does. And he was like, I was literally traveling in the middle of the ocean with no reception. Like I could have done nothing.
Yeah. Yes.
And then I was like, yeah, that's just the PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to remind myself that he is not them.
Yeah.
He is not them. And I know why I feel this way, but I don't have to feel this way anymore.
I'm so glad that you have that acknowledgement, that you know that for yourself. That's amazing. Because when I recently got diagnosed with PTSD, I had no idea until recently that I was being triggered. And so with my therapist, we're just working through it and helping me understand and everything. But it started making me feel bad that my husband is having to deal with me over things that were before him and were not his fault. And so it made me feel bad, but then he like reminded me, reassured me. He was like, no one's making me stay. No one is telling me I need to stay. Like I am staying because I love you and I care for you. And it just made me feel like, man, like this is an amazing man. He's gonna help me get better or be there for me in the process of getting better. But then like again, it was just like, like all this stuff that I'm like being triggered on and everything. And it was like before him. So just made me feel like it was unfair to him. But then it's like, God put us together for a reason. Like he knew that he was the one that I needed to be there to support while going through this whole therapy and in the process and recovering from all that.
And I think by you sharing, you're actually also telling him how you need to be loved.
Yeah.
If you didn't say all of these and kind of kept them all internally, he would not know. Like for example, my boyfriend, he now knows how important it is to be in touch with me. Like I'm not saying like I need a text every 5 minutes. And in fact, we barely text. But I mean, if I go on a rampage of where are you, where are you, where are you, and you get 7,000 messages, like message me as soon as you get that message.
Yeah.
He now knows that touching base shows me that he cares. Yeah. And like I don't go down that loop of spiraling and worst case scenarios and things like that. But you have to tell them, otherwise they don't know what you need to feel loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is also like, I'm going to blame the movies because, I am the biggest romantic, and I always had these grand ideas of someone coming in and swooping me off my feet or fall in love with the bad boy. And then don't worry, you change them and then your life is great.
Yeah, you cannot change them. You cannot.
I love it.
I tried.
Like, yes, I know.
I tried. Yes. No.
Yeah. And I feel like it's also, that what we see on TV and stuff, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that friction in a relationship is a good thing. So you have, like, if you look at most TV dramas or even books, right? Like they follow this formula of like you meet, you fall in love. Maybe you don't really like each other, and then you do like each other, and then you can't get enough of each other, and then something happens to throw you apart, and then it brings you back. And in my silly little girl mind, I'm like, oh, that's what has to happen in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like we have to have that like pull apart in order to come back together. And it's like, that's really bad for your nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I recently learned that after you've been in a toxic relationship, because you're so used to that, like that negativity and being toxic, that when people do find a healthy relationship, they're like bored and they're like, like, what is this? Is this, where's the excitement and everything? But it's like, no, you're just used to toxicity. and that's not healthy. So
Yes.
that is one thing to keep in mind. It's like, and then people tend to self sabotage the relationship because they are just used to always arguing or always something going on or whatever. But that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that is such a good point. Bringing drama because the relationship is so healthy that there's no drama.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, this is not normal. Let's put some
Yeah.
drama in here.
Yeah. No.
Because yeah, don't do that. I've definitely been in the past when I've dated guys, I'm like, this feels too boring, too
Hmm.
safe. They want the bad boy that I was used to. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to get to that point where you're like, actually, hang on a sec, let's look at this now as an adult, and how ridiculous was that? But you also had to go through it because, I mean, would you appreciate your husband now had you not been through everything that you've been through?
He tells me that all the time
I love him.
because, yes, because there's still times where I get mad at myself. One, for staying as long as I did. I guess that's the main reason why I get so mad at myself is for staying as long as I did. Because honestly, like I learned about his infidelity like early on into the relationship, but he just kept saying the same thing, like, no, this is the last time, I love you, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I get so mad at myself because I stayed for so long and I went through what I went through, and but my husband always reminds me, he's like, you had to go through that to then appreciate what we have now, because I could have easily tried, because he's such a nice guy. Look, I could have easily tried to like take advantage or try to manipulate and things like that. And he was like, and then my husband tells me, like, if I would have gotten that feeling that you are trying to take advantage or you are trying to manipulate, then we wouldn't have worked out because I wasn't going to accept that. So you are absolutely right. Sometimes, we have to go through those hardships to then be able to appreciate the healthy, the safe, and the good relationship that we are in and that we have.
And have you forgiven your ex for infidelity?
That is a good question.
For me, forgiveness doesn't mean I've told you I forgive you.
Yeah, no, I definitely have not told him I forgive him, but I mean, I don't know because I still get mad sometimes,
Mm,
especially like having to relive or like when I get triggers and like memories come up, like I still get angry, but I don't hold anything against him. One, he's the father of my daughter, my oldest daughter. And I don't no, I think I have forgiven him. I feel like I have. Because again, I don't hold anything against him. He was young, he made his choices, and at the end of the day we weren't meant to be. But I still do get angry with like of everything that he did for me. Now I have to like, do the work and everything. But you know, um, to my daughter, he's the best dad in the world. And I would never talk bad about him to her because I want her to have a good relationship with him. As long as he wants to be in her life, whatever happened between him and I has nothing to do with her, which is another thing that I learned, another lesson that I learned even growing up, seeing my parents go through their divorce. It was very nasty and very toxic, and I was like, I didn't want that. So I to my daughter, he's the best dad in the world, and him and I, we only communicate when it has to deal with my daughter.
have you forgiven yourself?
Oh, probably not. I don't think I have. I think I have to do that because again, I do get mad at myself. I do get emotional, and I do, question. It's like, why did I stay so long? How could I have been so stupid? Like, I still down talk to myself sometimes about that. So, no, I have not forgiven myself yet.
Because I think that's almost more important than even thinking about forgiving him. Something I did when I had to forgive myself for my part. And again, it was that, why did I stay so long? And then I used to feel like a liar because I used to lie about our relationship because I couldn't tell people the truth. Like I had to do a lot of work around that. And one of the tasks that I did for myself, and with some of my coaching clients, I give them this as well, is kind of looking at all the amazing things that came out of that relationship. So, I mean, like your daughter is probably the first thing that would come to mind, but then
Yeah.
also like all the amazing strengths that you've now got. And because you've got to remember that on those weaknesses that you have and like the things that you were like, oh, why did I stay so long, blah, blah, blah. On the other side of that, you've got like the strength of, say, resilience because you just kept on going, looking at the things that you potentially thought were the things that were weak, and but looking at actually how those were actually strengths that kept you going and how they're serving you now in your life. um, that was a game changer for me. I feel like when you're in a toxic relationship, you feel like you're weak, and flipping that around and going, actually, I was not weak. I was also young. We're searching for that happiness outside of ourselves, and we don't have
Mm-hmm.
enough of the mindset to be like, actually, I'm enough. It's important to be able to move on. And as children, we are taught it's so important to forgive others, but nowhere in
We're
there does it
not
say
taught.
you've got to
Yeah,
forgive yourself.
that is so true. And I actually wrote a blog post about that. I should go back to my blog post and apply it to myself.
And
Yeah.
have you found, so you said earlier that the writings like really helped you,
Mhm.
and so your blog post, Into My Thoughts, is that it basically was what it says, like everything that you're kind of thinking, like a diary almost?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of things. I share poetry, I share personal development content, so business, and then but also like challenges for my readers. And then I do share like life lessons. So I recently shared about my recent diagnosis with PTSD and how I was struggling to accept that. And I recently shared a poem when I was going through a deep depression that I was actually suicidal, like thinking and planning and everything. So it's very deep and very heavy, but and I was scared to release it, and I'm just like, why do I have this urge to release this poem? But it is a very important topic just to let people know like they're not alone and they're not the only ones who, if they are thinking about it, they're not the only ones who have thought about it before, and that there is help out there. There is help. There is and there are people who care about them and care for them, and that the world is better, that they're here, that they have purpose. So I share a mixture of stuff: poetry, personal development, sometimes biblical messages. So it's like, about wisdom or talents or, spiritual stuff. And so it's a mixture. And so I do share, life experiences and life lessons and things like that. So definitely got to go back to that blog post about forgiving myself and reread it.
You mentioned this earlier. Things keep coming back up because you think you've sorted it, and then
Yeah.
situation happens, and you're like, oh, hang on, there's just a little bit more. And um,
Yeah.
I know for me, I don't feel like it ever will. I don't think it will not be part of me, right?
Mm.
Like that worrying. I feel like it's just a part of me that I now need to learn to accept and live with, but in a way that doesn't damage me
Yeah.
or my relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right, because I had done therapy and then I stopped and I was like, okay, I'm good. And then I was getting triggered
Fixed,
and
fixed.
yeah, fixed. Yeah. And then I was getting triggered and I didn't even know I was getting triggered. And then it was getting to the point where I was getting angry again, like how I used to. And I was like, this is not good. So then I was like, okay, I need to go back to therapy. And then that's when so she explained to me, she was like, yeah, sounds like these are symptoms of PTSD. And just like how you said it earlier, like, oh, this is like just how you said it earlier was exactly how my therapist said it. She was like, oh, when we hear PTSD, we always think of veterans and war and things like that. And it's like, but it doesn't have to be that. Like, we get the PTSD for various things, and that's what was happening to me. She was like, your body is thinking it's in danger and it's just going immediately into protective mode in your brain. So you have to do the work to, rewire your brain and know that it is safe, and rewire your nervous system and so on. I was like, this is fascinating. And then when I wrote about it, I was like, our bodies are amazing and at the same time annoying. Like, why?
Yeah. Absolutely. I was speaking to another guest about how like one of our body's defenses is to put on weight because that's a protection, right? So like if you have more
Oh,
like weight around your organs and things like that. So she was talking about a really traumatic situation she went through, and she couldn't understand why she was putting on lots of weight, but it was like her body's automatic response to be like, oh, you feel unsafe, so I'm going to put some more weight around you. And we were talking about how like we get so angry at our bodies for doing all these things, but all they want to do is just keep us safe and
yeah.
keep us happy. And then we're kind of like, oh, why did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, same.
The body doesn't forget
Yeah.
all those experiences from our whole lives, and they're just living in our subconscious. And
Yep.
it just takes one little thing to trigger a smell, a sound, you know, a
Yes.
word.
Mm-hmm. That's what
So
was triggering me. It was a word.
yeah,
It was a word. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and how you said that the body stores all of it. I read, or I listened to last year, The Body Keeps a Score.
I'm reading that now. I'm reading
Are
that
you?
now. It,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it's a
I
hard
it
read though. It's a hard
Yes,
read.
that's what I was going to say. Like, it took me months to get through it cuz I had to pause, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a lot."
Pause, digest, and then come back to it. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
that's how I'm doing.
Yes.
That's how I'm
Yep.
doing it. Yeah,
Yep. It's a hard read, and I had to pause. Yep. Exactly. Digest and then go back. But I learned so much about our brain and how we do store trauma and things like that. And man, but it's definitely a really good resource to learn how our bodies work and everything. But again, just so you guys know, it's a hard listen, and or read
yeah, yeah.
if you decide to read it.
Yeah. It's like literally always by my bedside, and like sometimes I just get through 2 pages, and I'm like, okay, that's
Yep.
enough for today. We're going to put
Mm-hmm.
that down and come back to it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's also that book actually helped me change my understanding of PTSD,
Yeah.
and that kind of made me go, huh, okay, PTSD, right? That's a thing that we all suffer from, and it's not just reserved for people that have had. And again, on another episode, a guest and I have talked about the word trauma because people think trauma needs to be something huge, like I was hit by a car, I fell off a building,
Yeah.
I was attacked. But traumas are being cheated on is a trauma, being
Yeah.
lied to is a trauma, being called names is a trauma. So yeah, and I think just changing the dialogue and the conversation about those words and taking away, like, I guess it's not like a stigma about the words, but like there's an association with those words that make it feel so uh like reserved for some people, and it's kind of like
Mm,
actually we all go through it
yeah.
in our own ways, and what I find traumatic you may not find traumatic.
Yep. Yeah.
And vice versa. So yeah, I think, and I that's why I love conversations like these, because I'm like, it's my hope that someone out there is listening and going, oh, hang on, so when my boyfriend does that and I think about my ex that did that, that's like a
Yes.
post-traumatic. And I hope someone listening has that realization as well, because I think it's so helpful to move forward, because we don't want to be living in the past. We don't want to be
No.
stuck. We gave enough love and attention when we were in the relationship. They
Mm-hmm.
don't need any more of it.
Yes, exactly. That is so true.
And so tell me about what life is like now. So after that moment, you're married, you've got this amazing new life.
I do. It's funny because I told my husband, so my maiden name is Heidi Reynoso. And so now my married name is Heidi De La Cruz. And I told my husband, I was like, Heidi De La Cruz is not the same person as Heidi Reynoso. Like, they're two different people. And yes, after that moment, after just a lot of work and rebuilding and just being in a safe healthy relationship. I really feel like I can conquer the world now, like honestly. And it's crazy because I'm a writer. I have my day job, a wife, kids, and then I have my podcast business. And it's like I do so much and I just have all these ideas and stuff. I have that support that really makes me feel like I can literally do anything. And so like whenever I have like some crazy idea, my husband's just like, okay, like, go do it, but just make sure that you have the bandwidth because I don't want you burning out and
Mhm.
things like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely, like I said earlier, day and night. I tell my husband all the time, I love the life that we live. I love being your wife. I love being a mom to my kids because we just have created this safe space for each of us to reach our goals, work towards our goals, and just help each other. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, what is it that you need today? What is it that I need today? And back and forth. An example would be last year I got COVID and I was out for a week. And so with that, like I had to, distance myself from the family. He had to do everything. And then at that time there was a lot of craziness going on in his job too. So he was like having a lot to deal with at work. And then at home he had to, cook dinner, take care of the kids, take care of me and everything. And he did everything with no complaint at all. And so towards the end of the week, once I was starting to feel better, I just got up and I was like, okay, how can I take care of you now? After, you've been taking care of me. And that's just how it's been. It's just like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Like we're just there for each other and just creating this safe space for each other. So it's a whole different life that I'm living now. And it's crazy because I have had people, a lot of like family members, like cousins and stuff, like they know what I went through. And then like to see me now, like they'll tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, your like happiness looks good on you. Like you're
Mm.
flourishing, you're thriving. And I didn't let what happened to me keep me stuck.
Mhm.
I worked through it and I was like, no, I want more. I want better. And that's where I am now with my more and my better. And I absolutely love it. I love my life right now.
It seems to me that you do all the things you're doing now because you're not wasting energy wondering if he's out there cheating.
My husband doesn't leave the house. We both work from home. And to get this guy out of this house, it takes a lot. So I have
I love it.
no worries. I know where he's at all the time. He's at home.
But yeah, like, I mean, your energy is now just going into productive things instead of,
Yeah,
stress and worry.
exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's so wonderful to hear that you found a loving and supporting partner who is, ready to step up whenever they're needed. I think that's a true partnership, isn't it? And that's what a relationship should be, a partnership.
Yep.
Um, and it sounds like there's a lot of love and respect there too, which I think is the kind of cornerstones of a good
Yeah.
relationship.
Yep.
If there's someone out there that is maybe feeling like how you were feeling, is in a relationship that is toxic for whatever reason, being unfaithful or whatever, what advice would you give them?
Oh, I definitely want to say, get out, but I know that that's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, coming from me, like I stayed so many years, but and depending on like what situation it is, just know that there is better out there for you, that you are worthy of love, you are worthy of respect, and someone is out there that will love you and will respect you as you deserve. You don't deserve to feel insecure. You don't deserve to be cheated on. You don't deserve to be treated less than. You don't deserve any of that. You are worthy. You are loved. And as soon as you can, get out or make a plan to get out because there's so much more to life on the other side of the negativity and the toxicity. There's just so much more to life than that.
Yeah, that's really good advice. If you could be remembered by a word, what would that word be?
Kindness. I feel like we need more kind people in this world.
Yeah. And what does kindness mean to you?
Kindness means just helping where you can, when you can. If you see someone in need, extending that hand out. And kindness also means to me listening more than you speak, so you can get more of an understanding and have more empathy and compassion for people. That's what kindness means to me.
And I think like kindness to yourself, hey,
Oh yeah.
we can be so unkind to ourselves.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure someone out there is going to feel very inspired by listening to your story. And I'm also going to be adding all your contact details onto the show notes so people can stay in touch with you as well.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, for letting me come on here and share my story, and just thank you so much for your doing, for providing the space for people to share their hard stories.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. I hope today's conversation inspires and empowers you to know that no matter your current situation, your life can change too. All it takes is a moment. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with a friend. If you would like to share your own moment, see the link in the show notes. Until next time, be present in each moment, because you never know when your moment will arrive, or when you have the gift of being a moment for someone else. Take care.